We are starting soon. Welcome back to another episode of the Album Book Club. This week we are checking out I Want to Disappear by The Story So Far with our guest host, actually, Max Miller. So, Max, we'll let you go ahead and take it away, sir.
Is stoked to be here, fellas. How many album reviews is this that we've done together? Is this our fourth?
This is number 4, yeah, because it was, oh gosh, the band Camino, Posthuman, and then the first one.
Seven Dust.
Seven Dust, yeah.
Which was my favorite. You know what's funny? Dude, I got to tell you a true story. A friend of mine messaged me and they said, "Hey, I watched the Album Book Club podcast and I went and listened to that Seven Dust album." And they said that is one of their favorite albums now. And you hated it.
Look, we're a mixed bag of emotions here.
There's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I think this album is definitely. It's funny because The Story So Far is such a iconic pop punk band, but in this circumstance, and I've never been a pop punk kind of fan, but this album hit me just at the right time. When it came out in 2024 in the summer, I just remember listening to it and just was like, I don't know what it was about it, but the summer 2024 was just such a fantastic summer, and the music in this album just kind of stuck with me. And same thing a little bit with that band Camino album, but I think this is an album that I keep listening to it and I keep just enjoying it better and better and better. So the thing about it is, it's only 10 tracks. It's just short listen, and the songs are short too. So for the people that haven't heard this, if you're interested in this kind of rock music or this style, it's an easy listen. You know what I mean? Before we jump into the tracks, let me just ask you guys, did you find that you made it through this album really quickly?
Yeah, when I was able to listen uninterrupted, which I found myself completely restarting the album every time I would get interrupted, even if I was on track 5. I was like, yep, we got to restart. And just it flowed really easily into itself. And I mean, when we hit pacing, we'll talk about it. But yeah, I think it was a very easy listen this week for sure.
I agree. I had a good time with this album, so easy listen.
All right, man. Well, listen, why don't we just jump straight into this album and start talking about it from track 1? So the first track,
do we want to kick with our top 3 and then bottom 1, Max?
Oh, hey, you know what? I think. Okay, I'm down to do that. Why don't you guys do your top 3 and your bottom 1 first, and I'll do my top 3 and my bottom 1.
All right. Well, my top 3 songs were Big Blind, Jump the Gun, and White Shores.
Yeah, my top 3 were White Shores, Letterman, and You're Still on My Mind.
I'd like to make it known that this is Max's 4th appearance, and we are still yet to send him the outline for how the show is done. And my top 3 were Big Blind, Watch to Go, and Letterman.
Those are all good ones. My top 3 is Letterman. I would say that's my number 1. Number 2, I would say, is You're Still in My Way. And then number 3 would be Watch You Go.
Is it still in my way? I think I have it written down wrong.
I think I have.
I
have Watch You Go written down wrong twice on here. That's impressive.
Yep. You're Still in My Way was my number 3. I have that written down very wrong.
I say Watch You Go was my number 2. Pardon my improper English in misspelling twice.
Well, I guess that kicks us
So we'll
into
do a
bottom
bottom.
song. My bottom song is "You're Still in My Way."
Mine was "I Want to Disappear."
Mine was I Want to Disappear.
Mine also is "I Want to Disappear."
Haha, Carson, you picked wrong.
They have the same score.
You chose poorly.
Oh no.
All right, I think now we can kick into our tracks, Max.
All right, man. Well, listen, we'll jump into the track one. You know, the first track of the album. I really dig this. It's called "All This Time." So, I gave this song right off rip an 8.4. I would give it higher, but I'll tell you why I didn't in a second. First off, I think the drum mix on this song is crazy. Like it's so good. It's very punchy. You know what I mean? And like punchy and kind of energetic drums, which I really love about it. I think the hook and the chorus is really good on this song too. There's really good lead guitar melodies, but I think the song in the middle of it kind of takes a turn, and I don't like the second half of the song as much as the first. But dude, I just love the first half so much. So I'm gonna give it an 8.4 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm really in agreement with you there. I love the front half of the song. We get nice driving energy right out of the gate. The guitar sounds great. The guitar tone across this entire album is phenomenal. I love it. I think the vocals sound pretty good. I'm not known to be a super huge Midwestern emo kind like fan, right?
Midwestern.
Midwestern emo type of guy, but I'm not like super into it. But I really like the way the vocals were done on this track. I like the effects and all that.
Yeah, Max, you're absolutely right. I think the drums on probably 75% of this album sound amazing, and that is not to say that the other 25 doesn't. It's just I don't notice it as much as the rest of the album. Vocals are great. I think most of my beef with this song, I forgot the number. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I think most of my beef with it comes from the fact that this is just the part one to the second track is the same song almost, and all of my notes are just on the second track.
I guess I didn't say my number. I gave this track a 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah. I gave this one a 7. I think off rip, there's just a lot of energy, a lot of go here, and it's very, very fun. The vocals are just an absolute highlight as well. And then I think the only thing that hasn't been touched, other than Connor like grazed it, the physical count-in for the next song is the last few seconds of this song, which is fine in the context of an album. I think it actually works really, really well with these two tracks. My complaint then comes, you almost can't listen to it as a single unless the next song directly after this in your playlist is that song, and thus you can't shuffle your playlist anymore. So it gets points for not being a good single, but being a great album song.
I thought that point was only worth 0.2 though.
That's probably fair. We probably argued that different things adjust the score that are like the same way.
That's fair, yeah. Oh
It's
no,
like-
we don't follow our own rules.
That's true.
We made them up. They're ours.
Yeah, we choose to follow the rules when we want to follow them.
There we go. All right, Max.
So you know what? It's interesting you talk about that 4 count that's heading into that next song. I think that's actually one of the things that I love the most about it. But I actually gave "Watch You Go," which is the follow up to kind of the first song. I actually gave this a 9.2, which I can already sense that I'll probably get some disagreements in the room there. But dude, I think the drums on this song again are crazy, and the vocal melodies, like the harmonies and the melodies together, are just fantastic. And there's a really, really cool like breakdown and guitar solo at the end of the song, and the lyrics are really catchy. They just kind of stuck with me, and like the vibe every time I turn this song on when the weather's nice, I just feel like I'm driving with the windows down and just jamming the hell out. So I think for me, this song has just got so much energy and hype to it. It's got a 9.2 from me.
Nice. Yeah. I gave this song a 7.85 because it's the same as the last track, but just a little bit better. Um, no, I really felt like it was similar to the first track because we get the same kind of punchy drums. It kind of feels like a continuation. You know, the tracks are inexplicably linked with the 4 count in, and they just continue that drive, that wonderful kind of push through this album, and it's a great feeling to have. It just kept me having fun throughout the whole track. It kept me engaged. The guitars sound super cool, the drums sound cool, the vocalist sounds great. I mean, what is there not to like?
Yeah, so I have written down a 7.5, but I am going to up that to an 8 so that the average of the first 2 tracks, which is also the same track pretty much, is a 7.5. I think I just liked this song better than the first one just a little bit. They're both shorter tracks, and they both have great drums. This one has, I think, a more memorable chorus, but the energy in both songs are great, and I really like the outro on this track.
Yeah. I originally had a 7.75, but after hearing everyone's deliberations, have given it an 8.5 because, quite frankly, this is just a great song. Although I do think it's a phenomenal part 2 to the first track, I think alone this is very, very well off. Everything is just kicking, bumping. The chorus is actually really, really good, and I don't mean that in like it's a solid chorus. I mean, this is like if everyone who listened to this would sing along, it would rumble the earth kind of chorus. And there's a great, great, great guitar solo at the very end, which is perfectly fine there because this is a second part to a first track, and frankly, I think with how much energy's there, it could be very fine on its own as a single.
Mm-hmm.
Max?
Sorry, I was muted there. I think the next one up here this is my favorite song from the album, and I think that this song is probably the most commercial of the entire CD. But I think ultimately, I gave this song a 10, and this is the only 10 that I have on the album. Because I try to be very specific about what songs I give 10s now. You know, you guys have changed my outlook on what is a 10, but
Slowly becoming
I
part
do-
of the hive mind.
Yeah, welcome. It's a disease.
well, but you know what though? It's warranted. You can't just be throwing out 10s all the time. You can throw as many 9s out there as you want, but 10s, 10s are few and far in between. So I think this song to me is it's a perfect song, man. The verse builds into an amazing chorus. It starts off with a really great groove. The song feels very dynamic and just alive, which is a very unique characteristic to say about a song, but it feels like the song feels like it's literally breathing as you listen to it from the verse to the chorus. And again, the vocal harmonies are just incredible. Like you just almost feel like you're in the room with the band as they're playing this song. And I think the chord progressions and the way that this song just kind of dances and moves around, I really don't have notes other than I think it's a 10.
All right. Well, I gave this track a 7.5. What I agree with you, Max. What I really loved about it is how dynamic the track is. We are kind of taken from A to B to C to D through all the way to Z somehow, and they still make it sound good, which impressive feat. The vocal performance is killer. Again, I had a great time with this entire album because of it. I really like to lean into the vocals and really focus on them. And we get a couple of tracks later on where they strip it back and we really get just how good that vocalist is, but I think he shines in here too. So yeah, pretty solid track.
Yeah, I give this song an 8.5. I think it might be the most memorable song on the album, so I agree that commercially it probably did the best. Super fun, tons of energy. Overall, my biggest note is that it's just the most memorable, but this also I could see at the end of like a high school movie or something, and the lyrics kind of back that up the entire time.
Yeah. Look, I really always try and come on this show and not put a starred track in my top 3. I like being different, and it didn't work this week. I had 2 in there, and this was one of them, and I think it was perfectly justified. It's one, just straight gas. It's pure energy the whole time. And oh my gosh, I peaked that out pretty bad. I'll fix that. But it's just a really, really, really good time, and I don't think I ever wanted the speed to let up, which is usually not how it goes here. Eventually, you kind of gotta wait for it to stop going so fast. And that was never a question in my brain with this one. It was just go. And that's a feeling that's worth keeping and chasing. So, yeah. You're up, sir.
I didn't catch your number for that song.
Oh, yeah, shoot. It was a 7.5.
You're like, dude, this song's great. It's a start song, 7.5.
Yeah, it's a 7.5.
Fair enough. All right, now listen. This next one we have here is "Jump the Gun," and I would say I was a little bit more critical this time. The rating that I have for this one is a 6.3. And the reason why I have a 6.3 is, I think the mix slams, and it's got a pretty cool vocal hook when it syncs with the full band later in the song. I feel like this song maybe doesn't benefit from its placement a little bit, because I feel like "Jump the Gun" has kind of been done before on this album already, heading into where it lands. So, yeah, I think it just kind of gets lost in the album for me. So 6.3. You could get me to a 6.5. I could go for a 6.5, but I'm just saying, in the sake of being critical, that's where I landed with it.
Honestly, for me, the return to the full, smack you in the face was good. I gave this song an 8.5. I really dug it. It came at a point in the album where I kind of needed it. I really liked how much punch is in here, and really, because I'm such a huge vocal guy, that huge vocal hit where everything syncs up at the end that you were talking about, Max, that super does it for me in this song. I love when I see something cool with vocals done really well, and that's just a moment that I was like, oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm also going to talk about that at some point in this review.
Well, it's kind of like the biggest moment of the song.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard not to talk about it.
I was gonna bump it up a quarter of a point, but hearing Max talk about, in the context of the album, I was gonna bump it up because I heard it on shuffle on the way home. So I don't think that's justified, but I still gave it a 7.75. And no, just energy's great, everything sounds great, and then the part at the end that everybody's brought up, where there's all kinds of moving parts. They kind of move around each other. I think that part sounds great, and I think I was excited to see something that hadn't been done yet on this album.
Gee, thanks, guys. You left me everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
I give this a 7 out of 10. There's a lot of energy. Guitar work, great. Killer, halftime-ish section, I guess, which is probably the exact same thing you guys are talking about, and I just wrote it down in my notes wrong.
That's what it is.
Because very unfortunately, this was in relation to this album, just a little bit kind of, I don't want to say forgettable, but what it's around is so much better than what this is. So Max, I think, is exactly right on the placement thing. Is just, had this come anywhere else, it'd probably do a lot better.
So the next one is the single from the album, which is "Big Blind," and this song is so funny because I had listened to Story So Far a little bit throughout my life, but really not much. But when I heard "Big Blind," that funny enough, as late as I am to the game, that kind of turned me on to the band and turned me on to this album, or at least built up the hype and anticipation for this album. So, I gave this song a 9.2 because I think the song really just feels good. I think the hook is unique. And again, the harmonies and the melodies from every instrument are fantastic. I mean, instrumentally, dude, I wish they would release this album, with no vocals, just so you could hear the details. because I'm always fascinated. Every time I go through and re-listen to these things, I find a different little guitar thing or a different little vocal thing or a drum thing that just stands out to me. So yeah, again, I gave this song a 9.2. I think this song feels very authentic to them.
Yeah, on my first listen, this is my first interaction with this band. If I were to show somebody something off this album, it would be this song. This is my top track off this album. I love it. It's awesome the whole time. I think it really encapsulates their sound. The energy is there. All the fun vocal stuff is there. Even the instrumentation on this one is a little bit more fun than the rest of the album. So I can definitely see why it was like kind of picked out, hand selected to be the single. So yeah, makes sense. But 8.75 is what I gave it.
All right. I think I need a re-listen of this track. I gave it a 7. And what hit everybody in the last track of it sounding a little bit kind of the same and like hurt by placement, I think that happened to me on this track. Everything about it's still good. I don't know. Maybe it was because of the end of the last track, but I was expecting something new, and it was just doing what we had already heard really good still.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you just a little bit. This is more of what they do better. That is true. But I think the riff on this one is a lot different than what we've heard, and it's a very good riff. And then also, we've been talking about energy, and this song brought heart, and that was the big determining factor for me. I gave this a 9, and the energy's still there, but you can tell that every other song, while they're leading with their right foot, this one was like led with their left side. They put their heart into it and just went for it, and I think it completely shows. I haven't listened to much more of this band, very unfortunately. I'm going to check out more after this review, but this song, I genuinely can feel, I think, what they want me to, and that's something that's hard as a musician to pull off.
The musicianship in this one does, in fact, go crazy.
So the next one here is Nothing to Say, and funny enough, it's almost like I don't really have nothing much to say about this one either. I gave this one a 7, but I would have given it a higher rating, but I think it's kind of got the same vibe as What You Watch You Go, which we listened to earlier in the album. But what I will say is the song gets kind of sick in the middle because it completely switches tempo and it goes to this like really kind of breakdown heavy groove. And I like the guitar leads on that a lot. Like, so if the song were more differentiated, like the second half, I would give it a higher rating, but I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 7 here.
Yeah, I also gave it a 7, and it's a thumbs up plus. I have nothing to say about it.
You're not going to believe this. I gave it a 6.5, and I'll get this out of the way.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it a buck. I knew it was coming later because I had to restart the album pretty late. So this one didn't get my thumbs up because there was something I thought
you were correct to say later.
Yeah, but there's just a super fun intro on this one. I can't remember if this had is it like the phaser or the flanger on this one maybe? But it was very fun, and then there was just a lot of layers in the sameness of what we've had prior on this album. There were layers to it, and I liked that. And I kind of wish, like Max was saying, that we could get a no vocal cut. Even though on this one, I do think the vocal cadence is very fun. It's also very easy to follow, which is something as a musician you always kind of want to think about when you're especially writing new songs. You got to think, is this really complex and hard for someone to sing along with? Yes. Okay, well, I would not make a pop song then. And this one, I think, was just a really very good vocal cadence that anyone could catch. You knew where it would go if you're a relative musician. And then if you're not, it's something that repeats enough to where you can figure it out by the second, if not third go around. Yeah.
Right on. Well, the next one that we have is Keep You Around. And Keep You Around, I gave this one a 6.3. This it's just really not my personal favorite. And like, I don't even think this song is objectively like, a rough song or anything like that. This track just, again, this is where the subjectivity comes into play. Like this song just doesn't move me as much as the other songs on the album do. And again, maybe even its placement is a little bit is hurting it a little bit, but I just it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you. This one was kind of boring. I mean, I'm not wrong, guys. It sounds like the rest of the dang album, and I mean, it just comes at a spot where then this is where my fatigue hit, boys. I mean,
I will say,
right around this point, I get to like a really boring spot for like 4 to 5 minutes in the album for me, and then something really cool happens, and then we're back to boring for the rest of it. So
I thought you were gonna say 4 to 5 tracks.
I would say this is this is a 4-minute song, which is the longest song on here.
yeah,
So
and it kind of
I
drags.
think that's what eats it, because it's a lot of very similar sounding stuff. I think it's a pretty good track.
Isn't this also kind of where the energy pool starts to happen? Like they start slowly pulling the energy out of some of the tracks, and they feel less fun to get through, to kind of just prepare you for the end, which is something they have to do, but like not really if it's 30 minutes. I feel like if something is 30 minutes long, I kind of just want to rock out for that whole 30 minutes and then be like panting for air at the end. But subjectivity.
I was to say, I don't think I fully had that problem. Maybe I had a break in between songs that I don't remember, but I was kind of excited to have a track that was like the normal length of a song. But all I really could write note-wise was solid. I think it is more of the same, but it's more of the same in like
Long format.
the size of a full song. I wasn't a huge fan of whatever vocal effect was happening during the second half that I didn't write down specifically what it was, but whatever that was, not great. But everything else, solid.
Yeah. I gave this a 7.25. I think this had a really good build to it, especially with it being 4 minutes long. There was never a time where I thought it wasn't trying to do something next, and that's always something you kind of have to look for, especially with the attention spans that you've set us to have on this album. It's very quick pace, very, very changing, and this, I think, while pulling it back, did that at a good rate. It never left me thinking, okay, well, they're trying to stretch this out to bore me out, to tire me out or something. It's like, no, they're letting this ride because the kids are spinning in a circle in the mosh pit, and then, they're going to kick right after. And I like that. I think the only complaint is truly just about how, with the quick formatting to this formatting, is a little jarring just right here, because I would have expected the last track to be the 4-minute one. But that, frankly, doesn't bother me at all, because I think the song moves within itself at the proper rate. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's valid. So, it's funny, dude. This next song here, I know, if I'm not mistaken, it is maybe somebody's bottom song. But I fucking love this song. This song is just incredible. So, this song's "You're Still in My Way." I gave this a 9.2. I think the guitar lead and the intro are just so good, and the chord progressions in this song, like musically, are really kind of complicated. Like, worth noting and giving credit to the story so far, because dude, they're playing chords that, like, when I listen back, it's so, there's like a rub that happens between them that I don't really know many times that I've heard, especially in this kind of genre. Like, it's not simple. Like, it's stuff that's like it's pretty technical to get there. And I just love the way that it moves and kind of dances around. And listen, the hook is all over the place instrumentally, but it works, and it's really dynamic. And for whatever reason, I just feel really immersed in this song. Like, this is the one track that, like, every time I hear it, it just has me specifically locked into the details. And it's the last song on the album too, that kind of has the vibe and that energy, and like the drums that are kind of slamming, and the octane. It tapers down heavily after this, like you were talking about earlier. So, for me, I gave this one a 9.2, but I want to hear everybody else's thoughts on if they liked it or if they hated it.
Yeah, I gave this track a 6.5. Um, for me, I was still in that. I'm kind of tired of the sound part of the album, and it sucks that this is kind of the last track that we get like this kind of high octane energy on, because like after this, with this band's kind of sound, I feel it's kind of like one and done for me. Like I'll listen to, like with the next track, how they kind of change up their style, I really like it, but then the track after that, how they keep it, I hate it. And I think it's just kind of how what it's coming down to here is like my just specific fatigue with their style. Like this is right at the tail end. It's kind of a victim of where it is in the album. I don't really think it's bad. I was just tired of listening to it.
Cool. I didn't have that problem at all. I think this is my favorite vocal performance on the entire album. Right. I'm sure we'll find out.
Yep.
It had a super catchy chorus. I love what they did at the end of this track. I just thought throughout this was a great song.
Yeah, so I gave this a 6.75, and one of these Johns.
Did I say a number?
I don't think so, my bad.
I gave it an 8.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think this is a very, very solid track, and I'll be frank, I don't know what happened, but I think this was, like, we got past the intro, and I was like, dang, that's a really cool intro. I like that. And then it just kind of turned into music that I felt was not quite as heartful as it should have been at this point in the album, especially with what came next. The score was originally a little higher and got bumped down as the album went on. Like through the re-listens. But it's just, I think ultimately it's a pretty solid vocal performance and some pretty solid drums and some pretty solid bass and all that. But we've just heard better on this album, and that's just what it came down to. I don't even think this is remotely a bad song. I think this whole album's good, but this one just was not a hitter for me.
I think all that is justified because we move into a totally different vibe switch. And we move into the next song, which is White Shores. With White Shores, I actually gave this song a 7.3. I think the song is good. I dig the acoustic intro. And I kind of like the textures and the build in it, but I don't know. I guess that sound that you guys kind of got tired of, I kind of missed it. So, it's funny how that all works.
Yeah, with this track, I think just the breath of fresh air really helped me. I gave it an 8.2. I really liked the vocal performance on it. I was back to, this dude's vocal performance is killer. Even though it never wasn't. It was never not killer. It was just everything surrounding it made it sound kind of bleh. And I love the musicianship that it kind of gets shown off in this more like stripped back portion. It's really cool. At least the first track is.
The first track.
The first track of like the stripped back portion.
Okay. I gave this one an 8.5. I thought maybe I was sick of hearing it. I didn't think I was, but it seems like I might have been. I was ready for whatever they switched up in this track. This, I think, would have made the perfect outro to this album, is the biggest point that I will bring up. And it's going to heavily influence the score on the next track. But I think everything building up to this would have been great, and that is not what they did.
Yeah, I gave this a 7.5. Look, this is a great hold your flashlights up and sing along song. I think it's really good at that. I think very unfortunately, it's not the last track and still has something else after it, and that was kind of a hit to the point, or hit for the points. And yeah, I think this is probably just my regular emo bias taking over here. I really like the a lot of heart, a lot of energy, which is what we got around the middle of the album. So we're gonna say fatigue is probably the correct wording. More so, I just had a section preference for like that middle where they were screaming and crying and going fast while doing it, and that was a great time. And this one, while having that heart aspect pulled back, so it lost a little bit of points.
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't agree more. I think this song should have been the last one. This should have definitely been the last record on the album, moving into the next one. So, the next one, which is the closer, is "I Want to Disappear." This is my lowest score. This is a 6. I feel the same way that you guys feel. I think stacking two songs in this style definitely hurt it. What I will do to defend them a little bit is I've done some research on this album, and the vocalist lost his father before he wrote this whole CD. And this last song is dedicated. Well, really, most of these songs are dedicated to his dad lyrically, but I think this one is like the more specific personal homage that he's paying. So I can see why it was an important song to the band to keep it on, but for the feel of the album, I think that White Shores should have probably closed it out. But yeah, this one it's not my favorite on the record. And again, it's really just the vibe and the feeling of having two songs like this stacked back to back. But I think the what I will say is that there's some really, really beautiful guitar textures in this song, and some touches of vocal harmonies and things that like felt very intentional and very artistic. And you have to give credit where credit's due to the details. Like when I listen to a mix and I hear the details and I hear the effort put into it, I always have to acknowledge it. But I think this song, like you were like all of you were saying, really loses points for being the last one.
Yeah, it's a really bad victim of placement. One of my main notes about the song is that because of how it's placed, it just really felt like the band wanted it there for some reason. And now knowing the story behind it, I get it. Just flop it. Put it as the second to last track.
You make this the intro,
or that.
I
don't know. Put it
in the
somewhere else.
See, I think if you start soft, kick it. So like the concept, I mean, it would turn it more into a concept. The concept, I want to disappear, and then the rapid thoughts, Soft Shores. Okay.
That could be
the
cool.
the calm after you realize I've made it through, everything's okay, and that ultimately, I mean, seems like what this song is, especially now with the story, is the we made it through, and even White Shores, especially now, those knowing that it's dedicated to the loss of someone so close, that hits a lot harder.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Or go ahead.
I was gonna say I gave this one a 6 out of 10. Knowing the story now, it makes a lot of sense why it was put here, and that's kind of, I assumed there was a reason beyond this sounds like a track that would have to be the last track. But either way, I get why they put it here, but I would have not done that. I wouldn't have taken it off of the album, but I wouldn't have had it be the last track.
I forgot my number. I gave it a 6 as well.
I also gave it a 6. I think that's a quad 6.
It's a quad 6.
Quad
Yeah,
6.
it's a unanimous
Quad
decision,
6, man.
as we call it. It's a definitive answer.
Yes.
That is a definitive rating.
That song is locked in.
It's so messed up that it's the dedication song.
It's really not even a bad track. It's a victim of the show.
Kind of, yeah.
A victim of the show. Good track, poor placement. I genuinely think intro would, quite frankly, I think intro would make my bottom 3 scores all the same, and it would be a 10. But yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, fellas, from here, do we want to go around and just trade notes on what the final album rating is?
I say we will do pacing and album art first. This is yet again my fault, not yours.
Okay, good.
It's always Logan's fault. Just remember that.
I say, so yeah, we'll go ahead and kick our pacing scores, Max, if you want to start.
I think this album is paced weird. I think, and it's really the most noticeable at the end. So, from a pacing standpoint, I would probably give it a 6.5, to be honest with you. I think they could have moved some of the tracks around and made it feel a little bit more intentional from that standpoint, but But yeah, I think it suffers at times. Some of the songs suffer at times from the pace and where they're placed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I gave the pacing a 6.25 because you don't get points for being short, and also your ending sucked. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's so short. It's hard to really get a pacing score right. It all flows into it. It all flows into itself really well, but you don't get points for sounding like yourself. Don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem. I gave it an 8 for pacing, and most of it, I mean, they're like 2-minute tracks, and yeah, they sound a little similar at times, but I think there's enough variation that, with the exception of the ending, and I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the first 2 tracks being one song, but I can get over that for this show. With the exception of the ending, I think it's pretty solid as it is and would work on shuffle, so I think it's really hard to mess up 28 minutes.
Yeah, I also gave it an 8. I agree wholeheartedly. It's pretty hard to mess up 28 minutes. And then I think I like what I did to your album better. I'll keep it a buck. I think if you make that last track your first track, and then you have that more as a concept, and it's not a hard concept, but just like a soft outline, I think that works really, really, really well. And that's where my big complaint comes from, is just the ending isn't the ending, but it's not wrong to be here.
Do you know what I think it is for me, really? I think for me what it is really a little bit about like what Connor just said, how you can kind of just throw this on shuffle and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it has no intentionality to it. It almost feels like all of these songs were just placed. And it's hard to score extra points when it feels that way.
That's true. And I think very unfortunately that may just be the way of the album anymore, is you have to get things out. And so I think there are keystone songs in this, right? Like the first 2 are obviously the first 2 in their intention, right? That's why they're set up like that. And then I think when we get Big Blind, that's set up to be the big, powerful halfway point. And then very obviously 7 being a start of a wind down makes sense on a 10 track, 7, 8, 9, 10, or you start that long progressive wind down, and it's not so shocking when it's just the last 2. And I think that all of that to me screams intention. So we're speaking about 3 songs that could maybe have gone, you could switch them around, but I think they nailed the placement of those. Maybe I enjoyed songs less in that area, but also we got an emo song, like a pretty emo song, and then we got a pretty pop punk song, and I was like, you just did what I like. Come on. But other than that, I think, frankly, it's just that last track should be moved. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it goes, like you're saying, right before White Shores, and I think that also could very well work. Or maybe you could put that as the big middle song, and you move Big Blind down to like the 7 spot, and then you start that progression down, and that could help. And there's a bunch of ways that you could fix it, but it doesn't take much moving. And if you move anything else, it's supplementary. And yeah.
All right, so how are we feeling about artwork?
I gave the album art a 10. I think it perfectly nails what the actual album is. And I didn't even know there's an animated version. That's sick. Yeah, I just love that art style too. It kind of reminds me of like being a kid and just being young and a little bit naive. And I feel like that was a kind of a reflection I took away from this album as well. So
yeah, I gave it an 8.5. I think the art style is really endearing. I think it looks really nice, and I think it fits the vibe of the album really well.
Yeah, I gave this one a 9. I have passed this and almost grabbed it at the record store numerous times, which is kind of the metric we've set for a lot of album arts. It's almost happened, so it had to be a pretty good score.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Logan. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 10. And it's funny, this was not planned, but I actually have a shirt from the show that they played in Columbus. And it's got this really cool, like the art style for the entire album just feels so abstract and unique and like hand touched, and I appreciate that, and I think the more creative that bands can be about the assets and the way they display themselves, that's just something that always gets me fired up. And yeah, like when I look at this album, it's just the album artwork specifically just has like a really cool kind of energetic vibe to it, and I dig it.
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to our album overall.
Well, why don't you guys go around the room, and then I'll round us out with with my rating. That way, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to start too high or too low. I got to think about this a little bit.
All right, well, sounds good. I rated this album a 8.352 out of 10 overall, bringing back the Steven numbers. I actually had a really good time with this album. I think it's done really well. There's a killer vocal performance. There's killer guitar tones. There's killer drums. I mean, it's everything that you really want an album to be, and it's short. It's very easy to consume. It's 28 minutes. Just like it's less time than your lunch break, dog. Listen to the album. It's good. You're gonna like it. I swear.
I swear.
I swear.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 overall. I think pretty much everything that each individual track does on this album, I am a fan of. Not to say that it is not a good project as a whole or as an album, but I'm definitely going to listen to most of these songs on a playlist somewhere.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.75. Originally, I gave it an 8, but I think just after sitting on it, it deserved higher, especially because if I move one track and I'm willing to give it a 10, well, I might as well start closing the gap now. I think ultimately this is a very heartfelt project, and that definitely comes through. You can feel every ounce, I think, of what they were going for. And maybe a little less so the themes until Max said it, but that just came down to I was jamming out instead of trying to cry. So, yeah, it's a very, very good project. It's one I will probably pick up on vinyl, especially knowing that it's out on vinyl. I'll be swinging by my local record store sooner rather than later. So,
Man, I got to get a record player for the new place. Maybe that's a gift that I can ask for around the holidays or something from somebody. It's not a bad shot, because I kind of want to have my own little like vinyl esque collection. But this is the perfect example of something just for the artwork and the style of it alone to have hanging on your wall somewhere. I think as a overall rating, like I gave this album an 8.5. And like I'm trying not to let my personal bias or the nostalgia of me listening to this album in the summer of 2024 kind of skew me to want to rate it higher. But like objectively, I just think when this album is at its best, it's so good and so addictive. And you've all said it best, like it's so quick to listen to. Like you can put it on and before you know it, you're all the way through it. Like I can tell you how many times I've put this on when I'm just driving, or when I'm just like playing games, or I'm just chilling at the house working on something, and before I know it, the entire album's done and I'm on to the next thing. It's so consumable, and the songs really do flow into each other really, really quick. And it's one of those things where you can jam out, and it moves you up and down through your moods, and you can feel a lot of different emotions. And again, I think one of the main themes too that I want to harp on is the mixes sound great and dynamic and balanced, and you can hear everything, and they feel very alive. So for me, I think I would give this a strong 8.5.
heck yeah. Before we do that thing, we'll
Yeah.
do the great, lovely favorite part of the show. This is the plug yo shit segment, Max. This is where you get to shout out everything you got going on, coming out and coming up. Or if you just want to shout out your Instagram handle and get more followers, you can go for that too. You'll get all 7 of them.
But you know what, man? I am more than excited to shout out my Instagram, Max Miller 614. Follow me. Listen, I would say I have been playing with quite a few different artists. You know, I've been working with some country artists, a guy named Trey Myers and another guy named Alan Carl. Alan Carl has a new single coming out called Emotions here soon. And it's a song that I was able to write with him, and also wrote good chunks of that with my buddy Jacob Mooney and with my buddy Ehab Amran. So, dude, that song is incredible. It's going to be great. I also have been playing with an artist called Doobie. So, if you guys have not checked out Doobie or his music, he released an album called "I'm Gonna Give Him Hell Until I Get to Heaven," which I always think is clever. And we've been playing so many awesome shows. We went on tour with Nothing More, and we just got back from another weekend run called Bat Out of Hell Weekend, where we played 3 different cities in the Midwest. And this year we're going to be playing basically every festival you can imagine. We're going to be at Aftershock, Warped Tour, Louder Than Life. I'm sure there's one that I'm missing in there, but it's going to be a really, really sick summer. And I hope to see a ton of new people that I haven't had a chance to meet, as part of the project with Doobie, as well as everything that I'm doing with Alan and Trey, and hopefully get to kick off and write some more music for Harmless Habit, but not sure on that.
All right. Well, what are we listening to next week?
Next week, we will be listening to the self-titled album from the Presidents of the United States of America. This was suggested in a comment earlier this week that I still have to respond to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons. And in that comment, you're going to leave a song, EP, or album for us to review in either an upcoming video or live. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
I probably should have switched over to that.